This week, a new biggest Tesla Supercharger station in the world was found to be in planning. Tesla Supercharger for Business started to gain some big wins, and IONNA ribbon cuts their new station with their partner Wally's Travel Centers. Let's get into it. I'm here at my local IONNA station in Concord, North Carolina that is relatively newly opened. I did broadcast from here or record from here prior to the end of the year. It was the last episode of the year. And I did a site walk around where I was looking at the canopy. I wasn't sure if lights were going to be installed, but they have been installed. And also trash can squeegees. There's also a picnic table over there for a little sit-down area, pet station. So all the trimmings have been added to this station. It's very nice. 16 stalls, dual canopy on a plot of land they own. And a viewer, Scott T., visited the IONNA in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Let's go to that video.
Hey Walter, I'm here in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota at the new IONNA Rechargery located at the Hy-Vee. It's a Rechargery at. So you have the Hy-Vee grocery store, full service, restrooms inside. Over there is a car wash, Starbucks right there, and I believe the world's only drive-through only Taco Bell. That's what that is. So you'd have to get your food first or after because you cannot walk up to it from what I can tell. 5 chargers, CCS and NACS, standard 60-40 split, so you got 3 CCS and 2 NACS, or 4 and 6 depending on how you want to count it. Really nice site. Obviously got garbage cans, windshield wiper washer. They've shoveled out because it snowed last night, so just thought I'd check it out for you. No canopy yet. Hopefully they'll add one at some point. Would help with the snow coverage for sure.
Thanks, Scott, for submitting that video. It's definitely a nice looking station, and these things are starting to pop up like tulips in the springtime. And I was debating where to record this episode from because both Tesla and IONNA were headline grabbing, and I think IONNA's headlines are a little bit more spectacular than Tesla's. Although Tesla has this new super large Tesla Supercharger station, which we'll get to in just a second, I think the IONNA headlines are just a little bit more eye-popping, and we'll get to those as well in just a second. As mentioned last week, Francis Energy had several stations using Tesla Supercharger for Business announced, and we saw a ribbon cutting of one of them. Francis issued a press release, and I thought I'd go to someone who's been tracking the Francis Energy project for a very long time on YouTube, a bit of a sleeper YouTube channel, Dan the EV Man. Let's go to that conversation. I'm here with Dan the EV Man, who is a bit of a sleeper YouTube channel. I don't know if people have heard of your channel before, but sir, the YouTube channel is Dan the EV Man. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you've been tracking Francis for a surprising amount of time. When I stumbled upon your channel, I don't know how it evaded my attention, but you've been doing some terrific work. Can you give us a little background on the Francis Energy project as a whole and your involvement in choosing to track them and just what you have found as time has gone on through your efforts in keeping everyone up to date on what's going on with Francis?
Yeah, sure. So Francis Energy was founded back in 2015. So they're 10 years old now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is, in EV charging, that is antique. Oh my goodness. I didn't know it was that long ago.
Headquarters out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, not a place you would consider a hotbed of EV activity.
No, I live there. There's kind of like a petroleum capital.
So, and their kind of claim to fame or focus being out of Oklahoma is kind of providing EV charging access to everybody, kind of hitting those more off the beaten path locations to provide charging in more rural locations or, not the big metropolitan areas, although they do kind of service some of that. So I kind of latched on to Francis Energy when I started tracking the NEVI project way back when it first kicked off. And I was like, these guys are winning awards left and right and raking in tons of money. And, people like yourself have been tracking the bigger, companies like the Pilot Flying J's and stuff like that. And I was like, well, Francis Energy seems to be like the big boy of maybe the second tier. So let me kind of track exactly what they're doing and how their kind of expansion from the middle of the country outwards through the NEVI awards is going to look like.
And much appreciated for you doing so, because as you say, they've definitely got a bright future and a burgeoning prospect with all the NEVI awards. Can you give us a little bit of update on where they stand in NEVI? I don't really keep a close eye on it, but I do know that they're near the top of the heap, if not at the top.
Yeah, so from what I'm tracking, they've got 140 site awards total so far. Starting from being, awarded sites in the original Ohio round one, which was kind of the very first conditional award.
Fun days. Yeah.
Yep. Up through kind of the most recent stuff. So of those 140 sites, I think that covers 21 states of 37 that have some sort of awards. Of those, they've got 25 already open and operational. They've got another 12 or 13 that are being tracked as in construction. So they're, cranking right along. From the early days, they announced a partnership with SK Signet. And so from the very beginning, they had a partnership award with SK Signet for 1,000 ports. So they had their hardware partner kind of selected for a very large rollout from the very beginning.
And there's definitely some efficiencies staying with the single hardware vendor, because your staff becomes familiar with the hardware platform. And then you also have relationships with the vendor in order to get part replacements and maintenance contracts and things like that. I can definitely see where that would be beneficial. And I definitely like their new stations as they're rolling out. I've been seeing them across my purview for the alternative fuels data center database update that I do on a weekly basis, and definitely nice looking station, and the Aldi builds and everything. Lots of good stuff going in there. Actually, no, wait, Aldi is Altel. I forgot. But Francis is still seeing quite a bit of activity. And in all honesty, I was kind of thinking that the NEVI land grab was a bit of an opportunistic, self-serving approach that Francis was taking, and it may or may not be beneficial in the long run for EV travelers. But their rollout to date has definitely been, as you say, with the newer Signet hardware, looking to be really nice. And just recently, we've started to get all kinds of good news coming out of Francis. For instance, well, let me just ask you, maybe you could put it into context for us. What has been going on in the state of Oklahoma with Francis?
Yeah, so back in December, they kind of sent out an email, an announcement to, all of the people who had kind of accounts and said, hey, we're taking down a bunch of sites for maintenance throughout October, or throughout the end of the year and into next year, some of their kind of older sites. What we didn't know when they made that announcement until more recently was their plan was to rip and replace those older 50 kilowatt sites and use some Tesla Supercharger for business hardware, which has been a really exciting thing. So we're going from some older BTC Power Flow 50 kilowatt units, and those sites are now being upgraded with version 4 dispenser, version 3 output Tesla for business supercharger sites, which should then, based on the reliability of the Tesla hardware, kind of serve us for many, many years. And just recently, this past week, they had their first ribbon cutting of the first site that was open in Norman, Oklahoma. And one of the numbers that was thrown around by the Francis Energy team at that ribbon cutting was they had 27 sites planned for superchargers for business.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of older sites and maybe even some new sites within Oklahoma and surrounding states that are going to get the Supercharger for Business upgrade.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about Tesla's reliability factor is not necessarily the hardware, although they have, a approach of ensuring reliability in hardware design, but it's also the massive amount of serviceability in the service network that they have. And if something does break, they get it repaired quickly, which has always been, as I understand, a bit of an Achilles heel for Francis, being able to get things repaired in a timely manner. But if you got a Tesla Supercharger for Business station, those repair technicians are going to have parts in hand and on site within a 24-hour time span, I would have to imagine, depending on what kind of service contract they have or SLA. But that is way larger than I expected. And I don't know about you, but my mind's kind of blown. What are your thoughts about Francis's 2026's prospect? Have you kind of shifted your perspective at all on what might be coming this year in the Francis network?
Yeah, so I definitely think the NEVI build out is just going to continue to accelerate and ramp up for Francis to kind of build their kind of network that way. I think that's going to get them more kind of eyes on their networks, to give them more opportunities for other business opportunities. They're going to continue to kind of build and improve their local market and kind of take care of some of that. I mean, in addition to the SK Signet and Supercharger for Business, they've also announced partnerships with Wallbox. So that gives them a, level 2 and kind of lower power level 3 partner. So if somebody is looking for that kind of solution, they've got that hardware partner in place. Between, recent announcements in capital for supporting the NEVI construction and the announcements around the capital background in the Supercharger for Business area, it definitely looks like they've got, the right connections to the money to keep
the money lined up. That's right. Yeah.
Through the next year, which is a really important thing for, this very capital intensive build out part. The question mark kind of will be longer term is with off the beaten path sites and lower utilization, can they make money at each of the sites to keep them up and running?
Yeah. If the adoption rate of electric vehicles will sustain utilization rates at those stations or not. And I guess time will tell. I think long term is pretty well guaranteed. I don't know anyone who thinks that EVs are going away completely, but a bit of a dip in demand, at least through the first half 26 is what I'm hearing, then a pickup in the second half of 26. So we'll have to see how that goes. But still, there's so many EVs on the road as we speak. I mean, you have an EV, I have an EV, and they've definitely, I'm starting to see a lot of commercial vehicles out there also, like buses and medium duty delivery vehicles and things like that. And I've seen those at some of these public stations as well. So who knows what the future holds. I think it's going to be bright, though, for Francis. And much appreciated for you coming on and providing some perspective to this, because it's definitely a bit of a sleeper CPO out there that looks to suddenly have a change of fortunes and is now getting front and center with a network that looks to be slowly starting to assemble some very premium offerings. And so, Dan, much appreciated for coming on. And once again, your YouTube channel is Dan the EV Man. Is that correct?
Correct. Thanks for having me on, Walter.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much. With Francis burgeoning to be a premier CPO, I'm sure we'll loop in Dan at points in the future as well. He's also tracking Red E, so he has 2 CPOs under his belt, keeping a close eye on for us. Much appreciated for the conversation we had here, because it looks like a seminal pivot occurring at Francis's operations. Additionally, with Tesla Supercharger for Business, there's other locations, as I said, that have been starting to pop in. One is called the Pie Safe Bakery and Kitchen in Deary, Idaho. Population 510. There's also a commercial location that is called BA Solutions in Spring Grove, Illinois. And of course, Suncoast Charging in Land O'Lakes, Florida, with more sites coming from them as well, all using Tesla Supercharger for Business. And I heard from a viewer we might have a Wawa where Wawa is using Tesla Supercharger for business. I've been to a Wawa travel center that opened in Hope Mill, North Carolina, where a Tesla charging station was. It wasn't Tesla Supercharger for business. It was just a Tesla Supercharger station. So I'm a little bit unclear about that one, but he says there is one in the state of Florida that is a Wawa with Tesla Supercharger for business on property. Now, I don't know if it's operated by Wawa or it's operated by a third-party CPO. Don't know the details there, but the point is that Tesla Supercharger for business seems to be catching the interest of multiple different business customers, and they seem to be increasing the number of wins going forward. So that is definitely noteworthy in 2026, something we'll have to keep an eye on to see how popular the Tesla Supercharger for business becomes. But right now, they're off to a great start. Sticking with Tesla, Marco RP on X spotted a permit that, if it gets built, will be the largest Tesla Supercharger station in the world. It's located in Fireborough, California, off Interstate 5, which is exit 368. What's unique is there's 16 Tesla Semi stalls in the design. Additionally, there's 232, I'm going to say that number again, 232 new stalls, which are across the street from an existing 56 stall station, for a total of 304 stalls at exit 368 in Fireborough, California, assuming it gets built. Right now, we just have a design document, and I've seen Tesla Supercharger station design documents of really impressive looking stations that just evaporated as vaporware, didn't exactly get built. But should this one get built, it will be the largest Tesla Supercharger station in the world, and we'll keep a close eye on that for you all. Tesla this week opened multiple stations, including the one that I broadcast from last week, which was at a Cracker Barrel in Concord, North Carolina. Made its way into the Alternative Fuels Data Center database as a 16 stall station. Again, Cracker Barrel is a partnership I'm a big fan of. Additionally, a place called Vietnam Town in San Jose, California has a 24 stall station. A couple of 12 stalls at Wawa's in Virginia, and a Sphinx in Greenwood, South Carolina, that had a site visit video by Charge the South YouTuber. So go check out his video of that station. It looks to be very nice, and it looks like it's going to be getting a canopy too. The canopy wasn't there when it was open, but we saw what looked to be canopy footings in his video, indicating a canopy is likely coming there as well. Now shifting to IONNA. Put your seatbelt on for this one. In a post in LinkedIn by the Osborne Company, I'm going to just read this because this is truly amazing. The headline says 6 days. 6 days. Yes, over the weekend before Christmas. On December 17th, Osborne crews broke ground at the new 10-port IONNA location in Tucumcari, New Mexico. By December 23rd, the site was live to the public, charging vehicles. And our crews were headed home to their families. 6 days, broke ground, charging vehicles. This wasn't an easy build. Tight timelines never are, but execution under pressure is where great teams set themselves apart. When others said it can't be done, IONNA called Osborne. Proud of the crew that made this happen. Proud to keep pushing the limits to make the impossible possible. So that has to be a new land speed record for electric vehicle charging station openings. Breaking ground to charging cars in 6 days. I've never heard anything. This station here impressed me because it was like 3 months from breaking ground to charging cars, but 6 days, I don't even know how that is freaking possible. They had to have been working through the night to get all the conduit. There's concrete pouring. You got to wait for the concrete to cure, and you got to get the transformer seated and energized, and permitting and all these things. So truly amazing. All the stars lined up for that one. Also with IONNA, They had a ribbon-cutting ceremony for their new station in Illinois with their partner property, Wally's, in Pontiac, Illinois. And there's another one in Missouri, that Wally's in Missouri. And for people who are unfamiliar with Wally's, it's a very similar experience to a Buc-ee's. It's a very large convenience store with a lot of fuel pumps, large property right off the interstate, many amenities, clean restrooms, well upkept, 24/7, 365. So very similar to what you would experience at a Buc-ee's. They had a ribbon cutting ceremony for it. The governor of the state of Illinois was there, along with representatives from ComEd. ComEd apparently coordinated a 2,000-foot feeder extension along with new switchgear and a new transformer to support these stalls. They are under a canopy and close to the very popular Wally's facility. Additionally, this week, IONNA opened rechargeries. All of these are 10 stalls except the Freehold Township in New Jersey. The locations are Reading, Pennsylvania, Lake Delton, Wisconsin, near the Dells, Freehold Township, New Jersey, and Simsbury, Connecticut, all now open in the past week. Next, EVgo issued a press release. For those who don't know, I track the Pilot Flying J electric vehicle charging build, which is an EVgo Extend partnership. And there's a new EVgo Extend partnership that has formed with Kroger, the grocery store. Last week, I mentioned how EVgo is building into Meijer locations. And I'm sorry, last week I mentioned how Aldi was getting Red E stations. And EVgo also has a partnership with Meijer's. So this pattern of grocery stores getting electric vehicle charging stations put into their properties appears to be growing. And I mentioned that last week, that what Aldi was saying is that the dwell time of a grocery store customer very well matches the dwell time of an electric vehicle charging customer. So it has a synergy there with dwell time of your customer base, and it creates another revenue stream and also provides an amenity to your customers. So it seems to be a good business prospect that additional grocery stores are starting to catch on to. And something like this, once it gets going inside a vertical industry, tends to just pick up steam, and before you know it, all the grocery stores are going to be doing it. And that appears to be the path that we're on. Definitely going to watch this in 2026. So EVgo issued this press release about Kroger, and it looks like they're joining the party. Last week, Electrify America opened a new station at a Menards, and they did so again this week. It's a 12-stall station in Avon, Ohio. They also opened a 6-stall station in New Jersey. But boy, does this picture in PlugShare look cold in Avon, Ohio. It's definitely chilly there. For our next story, we're going to move to a little bit more warmer climate. This is the last one of this week's. CPO 060 has expanded their partnership with California-based In-N-Out Burger by opening another new station. This one is in Modesto, California. And as we have been seeing with 060 builds at In-N-Out in California, the stalls are very close to the building, allowing customers of In-N-Out to go inside and get a quick service meal and allow their electric cars to charge. And similar to the grocery store dwell time for quick service restaurants, or QSRs, is also very close to the amount of time you need in order to recharge an electric vehicle. And so we're starting to see the synergy between QSRs and EV charging stations increase in numbers as well. In-N-Out Burger in Modesto, California now joins those ranks. Thanks for watching.